We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again.
Hello? Am I audible? Can the chat hear me? welcome to the stream. I'm just setting a little bit more stuff up now. Let me... Can people hear me? Okay, perfect. Everyone can hear me. The chat seems to be quite delayed, but that's okay. Let me just set up a little bit more on my end, and then we can get started. Hello. Just need to find one more file here, and then we should be good to go. Okay. All right. Hello. Welcome to my first themed stream. I guess it's still kind of themed, but I'm hoping to do this pretty often. I'm hoping for semi-weekly. I can't do every Friday because I am still a little busy, but I'm hoping to do most Fridays, at least every second Friday. And what we're going to do today is I'm just going to talk about the albums I've listened to so far this year, because there's a lot of them, and a lot of really good ones, and a lot of bigger ones that I have opinions on. So let's start that in just a second. Let me see if I've set this up correctly. So I've got a list here. I'm going to be splitting it into three main categories. I'm going to be talking about major albums, which whether I liked them or not, I listened to and will talk about. After that, we'll talk about some of the albums that people in my Patreon released so far this year, which for anyone watching, if you are in my Patreon at the $3 tier, the tier that gets you Discord access, then on these streams, if you release an album, I will talk about it. You can let me know in advance if you want me to be actively critical of it, or if you want me to just promote it, because I'm not gonna come out here and shit on your album if you don't if you don't want me to, if I didn't enjoy it. But yeah, so, and then after that I'll talk kind of about the more hidden gemsy stuff, the underground stuff, the stuff that isn't getting a lot of publicity that I'm still liking, stuff that has a chance of landing on my album of the year list by the end. There's a lot of really good stuff that I am looking forward to talking about today. So let's get started. The albums are for the most part going to be in alphabetical order by section. So the major albums, I'm going to be starting with A to Z. Patrons albums will be just in the order I listened to them. I listened to all of them today. So I have some notes on those. And then the hidden gems will all be also alphabetical. I ran out of time to write notes on the hidden gems albums, so that's going to be a little more scattershot, a little less constructed, my my descriptions of those, but I feel pretty good still about being able to talk about them, so we will see. So, starting up first, our first big album, one of the first big albums of the year in general, is the new, if I can get this to work, boom, the new A$AP Rocky album, Don't Be Dumb, which, so I was initially pretty hopeful about this album, and while I did really end up enjoying it for the most part. After such a long hiatus, I did kind of have my guard up in case it disappointed me. And while I won't say I was disappointed, I think it didn't really do anything to convince me to let my guard all the way down. There's a few highlights, but even the highlights Helicopter and Stoya Flow, they don't really feel like moments to me in the same way that even Rocky's lesser albums have. all of the other albums from him felt like they had at least one or two songs that were like, okay, this is the song from this album that I'm taking, and I'll keep listening to it after I'm done with the album. But I just didn't really feel that with any of the songs on this record, which was unfortunate. But also, I still think this album is really good. I still did have a lot of fun with it. So that is album one. Let's see how smooth this is. I forgot to do um any testing of how this is going to work. So I'm going to switch to the next album. Yeah, that his album did not come out ASAP. That's true. Um the next album is I'll say it in advance. It's Ass. The new Alter Bridge album. Okay, it did show up. It's small though. So I'm going to move it up here. Also, why is the chat not showing up on screen? Um, hmm. Okay, well. Oh, no, it is here. What did I do? Okay. Let me just move that a little bit. I'm just going to tweak this a little bit before I... Okay. Does always show messages, does that make it fade or keep it? Okay, so this will stay on screen. Okay, good. So yeah, this new Alter Bridge album is bad. It's not good. I don't know why I listened to it. It's shitty alt metal hard rock that's way too long for its own good. There's nothing really to say about this. If you know what Alter Bridge sounds like, you know what this album is gonna sound like. Uh, it's butt rock, and I have liked a little bit of Alter Bridge in the past, like individual songs, but I don't think they have a good album, and I don't think this is anywhere close to being a good album. um, Let me real quick save this and switch to the next album, which is the new Angine de Poitrine album, which it's a bit debatable. I think if this counts as a major album, but it blew the hell up. So I did listen to it, and I do I do think this band is cool, and in general, I do like the shtick. I think the production on this album holds it back a really massive amount. In particular, the drums sound like piss weak. Um, and the whole way through, and it just really holds back the energy that I think these songs need to really make some kind of impact. But we finally got another band that can convince losers to buy microtonal guitars that they will never play. Yes, that is how you pronounce it. I know because they are from Quebec and I grew up in Quebec, so it's angine de poitrine. Or as I think they would pronounce it, angine de poitrine. I think that's my best my best impersonation of how they say their name. Um, but yeah, pretty solid album, and I am looking forward to. I think they would be really good live. They're playing near me, but they're playing a festival that I don't. There's not a lot else at the festival that I would go for, and I don't think I would pay the entry fee just to see them. So I don't think I'll see them, but I do think they would be really fun live. Next, let me pull up. Is this really how this album cover is cropped? I didn't realize that. Oh, is this going to change it immediately? Yes, it is. Okay, that's actually really good. All right, the new Baby Keem album, Casino. I was hearing pretty negative things about this one when it first came out, and I think people have warmed up a little bit to it. I don't think it's as good as the Melodic Blue, but I did have a fun time listening to this album, and I think it is indicative of a bright future for Keem. Um, yeah, none of the tracks really like stood out to me on their own for reasons positive or negative. But I like his sound a lot, and I'm hopeful that we can get more projects out of him sooner than later because he is still to me one of the more promising new guys in the industry right now. So that's that one. Let's see. Will this auto replace again? Because that would be amazing. Yes. Okay. The new Zach Bryan album with Heaven on Top. I was riding hard for Zach Bryan a couple years ago when he released his self-titled album, which I still think is one of, if not the best, kind of top billing country albums this decade, like the big Billboard charting albums. Um, but I've had a hard time maintaining that enthusiasm as time has gone on. Most of that comes from stuff that came out about him allegedly, which, while nowhere near as bad as what I've seen come from a lot of his contemporaries, still made him look like an asshole. Um and made it harder to relate to his music. I thought this album was still very good, but it didn't resonate with me the same way, and this new one kind of lands in a similar spot with the added downside of being way too fucking long. Zach Bryan has done long albums before this, no question, but there's just so much less to grab onto this time than I was hoping for. And with 25 songs, it does really start to feel like we're racking up filler. All of these big country stars need editors for their track lists, but this is the one I'm most disappointed hasn't realized that yet. Yeah, this is also a strange looking album cover. I don't remember exactly what he what it was. An ex-girlfriend came out and said that I think he cheated or was like an asshole verbally. There isn't like explicit allegations about him or anything. It's not to the point where like I don't want to talk about this guy anymore, but it is enough that it's like, I don't like I don't know. I don't know. I'm not like, again, there could be worse stuff that I don't know about, but the stuff that I did see was already enough for me to be like, I don't know if this is someone I want to ride for as hard as I was before. Um Natural cut French fries. My opinion on that is very positive. Okay, next album's a big one. Let me pull up the cover here. I'm always scared it's not gonna. Okay, it didn't this time. Okay, yes. Next is the new By Storm album, My Ghosts Go Ghost. Unsurprisingly, the Injury Reserve follow up is amazing, and I almost don't want to talk too much about it because a lot of the subject matter on it is a little raw for me right now. But expect me to maybe put out a video about it at some point because this is the most I've listened to a new release this year, hands down. And there's so much to say about it. You can check out we talked about it recently on the Modulation podcast, where we get a little bit deeper in the weeds with it, and there you can get a bit more of my personal attachment to this album. But yeah, this is an extremely strong contender for album of the year, and it's one of my favorite hip hop or hip hop adjacent albums this decade. It's so incredible. Worst comment of the year. What does this mean? Um while I let you explain that, I'm going to get the next album cover if I can. Yes. Oh, this is the wrong size. Hang on. Oh no. Okay, let's see if this works. Oh, I didn't even read that message. Beautiful. Okay. Next we've got, this is gonna be way too fucking big. Yeah, okay. Um, Let me just see if I can something like that. The new Wuthering Heights soundtrack by Charlie XCX. Um, I didn't I didn't watch this movie. I don't plan to watch this movie. I haven't heard like literally a oop, I just hit my mic. I haven't heard literally a single positive thing about this movie. Um, but I did really enjoy this soundtrack that Charlie did. And I think it has got some really big highlights. Obviously, the track with John Cale that became a meme is great. And I was a little disappointed that we didn't get more of that sound because she absolutely crushed it. But I think all the other material here is serviceable at worst, and it makes for a fun listen, even if I don't think I'm going to come back around to it. But I enjoyed my time with it. This one is the movie soured you on the soundtrack, then I will I will not be partaking, let's say. Um where is this album cover? Sorry, I can't seem to I think I didn't save this properly. Okay, here we go. I got it. This one's going to be a little bold if if it's not teeny tiny. Okay. I don't like J. Cole. Um we're talking about the fall off. I don't like J. Cole. I never really have. I think he's a fine rapper who is outclassed in pretty much every field by someone else in the game, even at his level. Like, even in the big mainstream rap field, I feel like everything that J. Cole does, someone else does better. Um, and I find his fan base and the general kind of perception around him to be really annoying. Um, I think this album is the biggest example of everything I don't like about him. And while I do think it is technically like a very serviceable album with very few tracks that I outright disliked, the whole thing just feels like such a nothing burger. Except that it's like four courses of the same nothing burger because it's like 100 minutes long, and I genuinely cannot remember a single moment aside from there was a weird future verse where it sounds like he's trying to sound like Shaggy. That was really funny. Um, but yeah, if this is really his last album, I don't. It would not be honest of me to say good riddance. Like I don't mind him. I don't hate him that much. Um, but I don't really care that much either way. Yeah, that's my J Cole stance for the time being, and probably forever if this is actually his last album. Let me pull the next album. I'm already thinking of ways that I will be able to better structure these streams in the future, because clearly there's a little bit of in between time. I'm also not going to be talking about this many albums, hopefully, ever again. Hopefully, I can get this consistently enough that I don't have to talk about. It's something like 70 albums that I have on this list. It's gonna be a long one. It's gonna be at least an hour and a half of talking about just a million individual albums. Next, we're gonna ooh. Next, we're gonna talk about the new Converge album, "Love Is Not Enough," which this is a fucking album. I was relatively lukewarm on Blood Moon in 2021 with Chelsea Wolfe, although I do really wish we got another album in that sound in some capacity, because I do think there was a lot of potential there. I just didn't think any of the tracks really worked that well. But I did feel like they were moving towards something better. But what I really wanted was a true follow up to The Dusk in Us, which was almost a decade ago. And with this new one, it feels not only like we got that, but it feels like we got a genuine contender for their best work to date. Um, yeah, I think I'm obviously like more inclined towards albums like Jane Doe, Axe to Fall, and You Fail Me, but behind those three, I think this might put up a really solid fight for being number four. It's going back to a really kind of hardcore punky sound that I think suits them really, really well now. And on top of that, there's plenty of these like sludgy moments that really let the mix shine because the production on this album is immaculate. I saw them live. Was it not quite a month ago? A couple weeks ago. And it was incredible. Terrible crowd, but the show was incredible, and all of this material really shines live. Um, yeah, let's move on to the next one. We got. Is this going to auto pop? No. We got the new dry cleaning album, Secret Love. There's not a lot to say here. Um, I think Dry Cleaning is really a really cool band in theory. Um, but in practice, they've never really done a lot to excite me when it comes to full albums. And while I don't think there's anything bad on this album by any means, there's just like a really glaring lack of variety and excitement. Um, I still like their sound, so I'm landing relatively positive on this album on the whole, but I'm gonna need something more from this band if they keep it up because they're starting to get a little stale for me. And like there wasn't a track like Scratch Card Lanyard, which that track is still unbelievably good. But everything else just feels like a diet version of that. Um, yeah, I'm glad you liked it more than anticipated. I went in with moderate expectations and I came out moderately positive. Like this isn't a disappointing album to me. It's just like it's fine. I it will be disappointing for me if they release another album just like this next time. If they keep drilling this sound into the ground and don't do anything to shake it up at all, then I'll be disappointed. Then I'll start kind of separating myself from dry cleaning. Just gonna take a sip of water before the next one. Okay. Next we've got the new Femtonol record, Man Bites Dog. I haven't really loved a Femtonol project before this album, although I think the hate is very clearly overblown and performative, but I did find myself really enjoying this new one. It's just simple, fun digital hardcore, and I didn't find any of it to be all that memorable track to track, but I did think it was a very fun, high energy time, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her live next month. I think this material will really shine live, as long as she's at least a half decent performer, which I've heard she is. I've heard she puts on great shows. Um, it was giving me a lot of Machine Girl vibes, which that was also an amazing show when I saw them. So I am hopeful. And I did really enjoy this record. Review the Water. Let me take another sip. Okay. Tap water review. It's fine. That's my review. Uh yeah. There's a little bit of like I don't know. The tap water where we are isn't great. It's kind of got a little bit of that chlorine taste that city tap water tends to. Um, let's next go with the new Kim Gordon album, Play Me. I loved Kim's last album, The Collective, in 2024. I thought the blend of kind of modern day rage aesthetics with her now classic style of like no wavy noise rock was utterly compelling and executed so lovingly that I couldn't help but be fully endeared to it. This new one has the obvious downside of not being as novel. Like part of the big deal with her last album was like there's a 70-year-old woman making rage beats and ostensibly rapping over them. But I think it makes up for not having that novelty factor by being just as good and at times even better, just on a quality level. Some of the noise rock stuff is kind of shed in favor of some more experimental brands of hip hop. But on the whole, it's just more of the sound that I already loved, and nobody is doing anything remotely close to it. So I've got nothing to complain about. This is an awesome album. Let's see here. 6 out of 10 for water, yeah. Femtano. um, will this... Let's go with the next album to talk about is the new Gorillaz album, The Mountain. This is one that I've not gotten to go back to since it came out, which is a shame because clearly it is like a bit of a slow burner, but even just on the one listen, I think this is so clearly their best album since Plastic Beach. And I say that as someone who loves Song Machine a lot. I just think this thing feels so much more measured and well thought out compared to so much of their work the past decade and a half. And the songs are mostly bops on top of fitting that more conceptual lens. Like I said, I need more time with this one before I can fully settle on where I would rank it overall, but I think this one is their best in when did Plastic Beach was 2010, so best in more than a decade and a half. Yeah, I need to listen to this one more, especially in preparation for I forget when I'm seeing them perform live. But that's gonna be a great show. I'm very excited for that. And on a side note, the that show has two like all-time must-see artists for me, two bucket listers of Little Sims and Deltron 3030, which both were like I have to see these before I die. So getting to see them with Gorillaz is going to be awesome. I'm sure Dell's going to come out and play Dirty Harry and do his verse and whatever. So very, very excited for this and very excited to spend more time with this album. October 3rd. How do you know? Who are you? Who are you, Lambdaleth? Okay. While you explain who you are, um let's get the next one up. Someone mentioned this one earlier. Hopefully this imports properly. I will absolutely not be listening to the new Vivian Orihuela album. I've heard really bad things about that person. Just the worst I've ever heard of. So nope. Okay, next album, the new Hemlock Springs album, The Apple Tree Under the Sea. I am I'm still waiting to be fully sold on Hemlock Springs, on like a full Hemlock Springs release, but this is definitely the closest I've ever gotten. I love how quirky the delivery is. I think the songwriting is always interesting, even when I don't think it fully works. And I think the production is genuinely like quite incredible. There's some really strong Song of the Year contenders here, like Moses, and I I don't think there's any true lowlights on here. I think we're still seeing her wind up, and I hope we get more material sooner rather than later because I feel like she has a masterpiece in there. I don't think she's there yet, um, and I think there's a fair amount to kind of work out from her sound to kind of to weed out and figure out where the actual true core of her sound and her artistry is. But I think this is a really promising step in that direction. Yeah, I loved this album. Um, ooh, an album I did not love. I'll pull this up. This one, I don't think it'll be controversial that I didn't enjoy this. The new... Why is this not importing? The new Joyce Manor. Oh, it's so small. It kind of deserves to be. The new Joyce Manor. I won't dwell on it too long, but I thought this album straight up sucked. I've really enjoyed a lot of Joyce Manor's work, even some of the stuff that a lot of people seem not to. But I haven't checked in a few years, and if this is any indication of their direction, I'm not going to be checking in for a good while after this either. The fact that a 19-minute long album can feel like it drags is it's genuinely embarrassing. I yeah, it was not it for me. I did not enjoy the new Joyce Manor. Let's see here. The next one, if I can get it to go. Yes. The new Mandy, Indiana album, Erg. Um, I'm not really sure if this is a particularly major release. Like, I think maybe I should have kept it in the kind of hidden gem section, but I saw more buzz than I expected, so I'm including it up here. Yeah, this thing is a blast. Their last album was more of like a brooding, much more atmospherically rich and layered album. This one, it takes those industrial undertones and blows them out to like unrecognizable levels with some of the biggest sounding synths this year, some of my favorite vocal delivery from a project like this ever, and just an energy that I haven't been able to deny at any point this year. I was already very interested in this band, but if they can keep this momentum up, I can very easily see them becoming a new favorite for me. Oh, I just looked at my list and forgot that this was on here. Oh boy. After that, I'm gonna talk about, oh yes, Unexpected Billy Woods feature too. Really, really fantastic feature as well. Really suited the moment of the album. In a way I was not expecting, but like he really killed it. Okay. The next album, the new Mega, oh, it's way too big. The new Megadeth album, ass. This album is ass. And like what a depressing way for this band to go out, but also what an appropriate one. Cuz like Megadeth hasn't put out a half decent album since 2009 at the latest, and they haven't put out one that I would consider to be great since like what, 1992. So I knew what I was getting myself into by listening to this one, but I was I was more disappointed than I expected by just how lifeless and sad the whole thing felt. Just like miserable and completely unremarkable. They did do they did do a ridiculously on the nose cover of Ride the Lightning by Metallica as the closer, which is genuinely like the most Dave Mustaine thing they could have done, to the point that it's beyond parody. But yeah, bad album, bad band. They just so happened to, they did release one of my favorite albums ever, but like otherwise a pretty miserable band. I went through the discography at some point last year, and that was not something I recommend that anyone anyone does. Um, yeah, not the best. Lukewarm Dr. Pepper gets you through sometimes. Wish You Were Here AI ass cover, yeah. Next up, let's do, please don't be a WebP. Okay, good. Do you guys know about WebP file format? It's the worst thing in the world. It's an image file that you can't use in apps. You have to make you have to convert it. But WebP. Next, we'll talk about the new. Oh, it's tiny. The new Mitski album. Nothing's about to happen to me. I feel like this album cycle just kind of came and went. There wasn't a lot of fanfare, which is too bad. Because like sure, the last album was better, and this isn't coming anywhere close to her like career highlights, but I still think this is a really great album. Um, yeah, all my homies hate WebP. No, I think this is a really great album, and I think this more Americana-y indie rock style works really well for her at this stage. The songs that hit, like If I Leave and I'll Change for You, are among my personal favorites from her, and I would not mind hearing another album from her that sounds like this. Really, like big thumbs up for this album. On oh my god, Hake Files. I don't even know how you're supposed to pronounce that, but the worst. Maybe worse than WebP. Um, this next one is going to be a little unconventional. Let's see if I can even get this. Oh no. I cursed myself. I actually did end up with a WebP that I have to go download a new one. That is not what. This one's also web. Oh my god. You know what? Let's see. Let's see what happens if I try and import a WebP. Um Here. This one's definitely going to be big if it imports properly. Does it? Oh, it did. Okay. So this is unconventional, but it's obviously not a real release, but the new My Chemical Romance The Paper Kingdom uh bootleg unofficial thing. Obviously not a real release. I'm sure a lot of people here might not even know it exists or that it was unearthed, but so Paper Kingdoms was essentially the canceled MCR follow-up to Danger Days, which was recorded in 2012 and was in essentially a complete state, at least in terms of the songwriting. Uh, before being completely shelved, never to see the light of day again. I don't know or really care that much about the process of how this managed to leak, but what matters is that it did, and I heard it, and I'm kind of pissed because I fully genuinely believe that if this album had gotten like a proper release, if it had been mastered properly, if the vocals had gotten a better a more final take, um it would have been their best album. Um like very easily, I think. So many of these songs would land even in their current state, so many of these songs would land in my top 10 or 20 MCR songs, and so many more have grown on me a ton and would have been made like even better by a proper mastering and another vocal take, like I said. In its current state, like in this rough, really just like full band recorded at once take, this in this state, I still think this thing is amazing, and I still think it's maybe better than the Black Parade. Like I think it's only a bit behind Three Cheers for me as like uh my favorite MCR album. So yeah, if you can find a way to hunt this down, I implore you to do so because it is like genuinely incredible. Um yeah, thank you. Let me pull up this one. I listened to late, so I didn't have the album cover saved. So let me save this. Hello, Still Beaches. Yes, you're getting the so right now we're talking about the biggest albums of the year, not necessarily my favorites. But after that we're going to get to kind of my hidden gems, the stuff that isn't getting like publication anywhere. But right now I just need to pull up the new album by my new band Believe, the self-titled. it feels like between the whole Black Country New Road situation and the Black Midi breaking up situation, as well as the fact that none of their proteges have really caught on in the same way, I think the windmill scene is kind of dead, or at least dormant. There've been plenty of bands and albums I've loved since then, but it doesn't feel like a scene anymore. At least the way that it did at the beginning of the decade. Sorry. I think the biggest point in my favor for this new album is this new album by former Black Midi bassist Cameron, which, while I do think this is genuinely very good, I did end up really enjoying this album, but it feels pretty detached from a lot of the things I loved so much about the scene in its heyday. What's not missing though is the quality and the virtuosity, because this album has so many layers and so much going on at any given moment that it can be a little overwhelming, especially because this is still ostensibly a folk album. But I still think it's like really impressive, and it is a enjoyable listen. I'm not sure if it has the staying power for me, and my feelings around so much of this scene are complicated enough that it's hard to fully give in to loving it, but I do think it's very good. Just maybe not for me right now. How many albums do I listen to on average? What time frame are we talking? Because basically, I work from home. I work 10-hour days, and there's nothing that needs sound. So I get through, when I'm not listening to like YouTube and podcasts, I can get through like a dozen albums in a day. Um, on a yearly basis, I average about 1,000 different albums a year. So not including like re-listens of albums and stuff like that, or not like re-listening to the same album within the year. I track, like, if I re-listen to an album, I will track that, but if I listen to it again within the same year, I won't. So yeah, I get through about 1,000 or more albums a year. But yeah, let's do the next one. My files, I'm realizing there's definitely some files missing, so I overwrote some of the album covers, so I am having to search up and download some album covers for this. But the next one we're going to talk about is the new Neurosis album, An Undying Love for a Burning World. And man, I love this band. And while it was obviously disgusting to find out about the shit Scott Kelly was up to, the band's response in just unequivocally kicking him out gave me more hope than I usually have in cases like this. Now, a decade after their last album, they surprise dropped this new one. They've got Aaron Turner from Isis and Sumac filling in on the vocals, and it's just incredible. Totally apocalyptic, incomprehensibly heavy, and filled to the brim with like career highlight riffs. There's a bunch of great post rock passages, and even some of that like hardcore punk energy that the band started out with. This is one of the best metal albums of the year, hands down, and such an awesome comeback. I'm really excited for the future of this band, especially I think Aaron Turner suits them so well. It's such an obvious pick of like who would you want to see replace the guy from Neurosis? Let's get the other big atmospheric sludge metal guy. And yeah, it's fantastic. The next one I'm a little less positive on. Still a metal album. That is the new Poppy album, Empty Hands. It's getting a little hard to be a Poppy defender this year than it was when I was like in love with Negative Spaces in 2024, because this is simply not as good. I think there's a lot to really like about this new album. Notably, I think her vocal performance is the best it's ever been, both in terms of screaming, which she's been developing over the past few years, but also some like genuine surprise moments of clean singing and belting that fully abandons the kind of kitschy whispered tone that she made her name off of. But I think ultimately this album just struggles a bit with songwriting and kind of keeping fresh ideas, which is unfortunate because I really have been and continue to be rooting for her. You did arrive just in time for me to talk about Neurosis and now Poppy. I don't know Wheels of Mercury, what your thoughts on this Poppy album were. I still really like it, to be clear. I still think it's really like fun. I still enjoyed it, but I haven't returned to it. I don't plan to return to it. And I think there's a lot better that she could be pulling off. Let me do. I think this will import naturally. Yeah, the new Jill Scott album, To Whom This May Concern. I'll admit I'm not the most like well versed in R&B and soul compared to some other genres, but even still, I've been a little baffled by the lack of attention this new Jill Scott album has gotten this year because it's so damn good. And it's such a triumphant and inspired return after a decade of silence and over 2 decades since the albums she's best known for. It's lush, it's intimate, and it carries its concept with so much grace and confidence that it's really hard not to fall in love with it. There's so many highlights all over this thing as well, and I really would love for this to be the kickoff point for kind of a second wind to her career because it's clear she's got a good amount of gas in the tank this many years after her kind of peak era. But yeah, I know this one as well got like the Fantano 9, so I think it got a little more attention from that, but other than that, I didn't see anyone talking about it. But yeah, this next one, okay. Slayer Half Blood Blood Lux. I I unfortunately did not get around to the original Half Blood album last year, which on the one hand is too bad because it definitely would have ended up as one of my favorite records of 2025, but on the other hand, maybe it's best this way because this kind of digicore rage sound was already so well represented on my year-end list, and I would have hated to have to make even more cuts than I already did. This deluxe version adds a whole additional album's worth of tracks, and while I think the original works better as like a whole contained piece, the highlights on this thing are just as high, if not higher, and this guy has immediately managed to get himself very high on my list of artists to keep an eye on. Yeah, I think Slayer is on the cusp of a blow up. I hope he gets there cuz this was really good. Last year's album was really good and I've been seeing a little more buzz around him, especially in the wake of this deluxe version of the album. Um Next, we've got the new Slater album, Worst Girl in America. And dude, this is the album that I have been rooting for her to make for years now. Slater has always been an artist who I consider to be kind of the bridge between the PC music hyperpop scene and the mainstream of dance and electropop. And now the industry seems to be acclimating to that. And that, sorry, I just got tongue tied there. Now that now that the industry seems to be acclimating to that concept, she's releasing this perfectly timed album that I think is by far the best thing she's put out to date. It's just bops and bangers the whole way down. So much energy, so many awesome genre fusions, and probably the most well realized version of this indie sleaze revival scene that's been bubbling up for the past couple of years. The highlights on this album are just straight up the best songs of the year, and there's so many of those highlights. I slip wow. Snow Strippers kind of disappeared. I was so in on Snow Strippers a couple years ago and they've kind of gone away. So I've been itching to get my hands on some new like electro clash stuff and this fills that need perfectly. This next one is going to be a little bold to put on the big list, but I think it got enough buzz if I can find a good rip of the album cover because this one I was failing earlier. Here we go. The new Sun album, self-titled Sun album. I think it's great. I think it's just quintessential drone metal meant to be played as loud as possible. And while I do have some issues with the direction, notably the fact that it's like one 20-minute song too long. And it does kind of feel like a step backwards conceptually compared to their last few records. But at the end of the day, I just love Sun's sound, and I think they are still firing on all cylinders here. This material was also unbelievable live. I mean, it's hard to distinguish between a lot of Sun's material without listening to it pretty intently and getting acclimated to it, but seeing them live really made a lot of this material shine in some really fantastic ways. Um, Moon wasn't Moon. Hang on, am I going crazy? I think Moon was the. No, I guess I'm crazy. Who did the stuff, the Hotline Miami soundtrack? Didn't didn't an artist named Moon do that? I know there's like a black metal band called Moon, but maybe I'm going crazy. No, I'm not. Yes. Okay. Wait. Yes, I am correct. It is Moon did make a lot of the stuff on the Hotline Miami soundtrack. Okay. Now that that is settled and out of the way, let me get the next album ready, which is the new Underscores album. You. Oh my god, it's so. Hang on. This I also need to find a solution for. Stopping them from importing so big or so small. But the new Underscores album, You. It's all bops. I adore Underscores. I've been following her since Fishmonger, and it's been really awesome watching her develop over time, always bringing a wholly new sound with every single release. And with You, it feels like she's setting out to perfect this current wave of electropop EDM revival, and she's just succeeding at every turn. She's really filling that same niche as kind of the Nina Geraci album last year, the Slater album we just talked about. And I think this is just one of the best iterations of that. It's the best sounding album she's ever done. And I do think I still ultimately prefer the kind of high concept, artsy indie rock of Wallsocket. Um, I still absolutely think this is the direction she should be moving in, and she's just absolutely nailing in it. Nailing it. Um, I'm seeing her live in June, I believe, and I'm just ecstatic. I cannot wait. Yeah, pop has been crazy good this year. Yeah, not no slouch. Not a slouch year for pop. The next album, yeah, I listened to it. I listened to Bully, the new Kanye album. I wasn't sure if I was going to. I wasn't like planning on it, but my curiosity did get the better of me, and I put it on. And I know some people are relatively positive on this album, and I don't want to get into the whole like Kanye-isms surrounding the release, but I will say that man, this is such a nothing album, and for the first time maybe ever, I'm saying that something is a nothing album in a positive way. Because like a 4 or 5 out of 10 is still leagues ahead of where we've been the past 5 years with him. It sucks that this is where we're at, but ultimately I'm not surprised. And while somewhere in my heart I still hope we can get a good album in the future, and I hope we can have that whole redemption that everyone's been saying, oh, it's gonna happen. There's still there's a really long road ahead of him clearly. And I don't have full faith that he's he's ready to walk that long road. But oh well. So be it. I broke I crashed your Safari with the album cover. Hell yeah. Let's get this off the screen. The next one I'm going to talk about is the new Shoo Shoo. Shoe Motherfucking Shoe Volume 1. Uh, this is exactly what you would expect from a Shoo Shoo's cover album, in that you never really can predict what it's going to be. The track list on here is nuts, and I genuinely think they do a pretty good rendition of basically every song they tackle. For example, or sorry, no, I do think your mileage with the Shoo Shoo covers album will vary depending on your feelings on the original song counterparts. For example, I've seen that Triple Sun by Coil is by far the least popular song on here, but as someone who adores Coil, I think this rendition is just about the best possible outcome for a cover, and it really adds to the original in some interesting ways. What else is on here? Dancing on Your Own is amazing. The Glorilla cover of Liquor Some is absurd. Psycho Killer, Some Things Last a Long Time, both incredible. Oh, the Roy Orbison one, In Dreams, is like genuinely unbelievable. Yeah, I really hope they make more of these because this is such a blast. This was so fun. And while obviously I'm always hoping for a new big like main Shoo Shoo release, stuff like this is a big part of why I love this band. And oh, that's the last one of the kind of the big major releases so far this year. So we're gonna get to some of the kind of hidden gem stuff in a minute, but first I want to talk about the patrons albums, which I did not save any of the album covers, so I'm gonna be going and downloading these as we speak. So I'm gonna let chat go for a second while I find some of these, because a lot of these are not on streaming anyways, so I have to go to the actual like Bandcamp pages and save the files. Let me go here. You better not be uploading them in WebP format. I'm gonna be mad. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3. Ooh. Am I gonna be able to hang on? Llama, can you get me the Trebuchet album cover? Just DM it to me. I can't I can't get it to save for some reason. One more. I lied, 2 more. There we go. Okay. Very, very professional of me, I know. Let me pull up the first one. It's okay. Trebuchet is like the 4th one I'm talking about, so you've got time to to find me that album cover. Okay, the first one I'm going to talk about is one of two releases by someone in the Patreon who goes by Grounds. Oh my god. So they've got a new album. This is the more recent of the two. I'm going to talk about both. But the more recent one, The Ends of a Vicious Cycle. This is some really cool kind of vaporwavy instrumental hip hop. I like the blends of more recognizable samples alongside some really hard to parse manipulated stuff. It's a very cozy listen, but it's just abstract enough to never really lose my attention. If I have a criticism, it's that sometimes the samples are played too straightforwardly for too long, but that's not necessarily a negative in every case. I just sometimes wish there was a bit more variety within those tracks that take one or two samples and mostly just let them ride. Um, the album I preferred from Still Grounds is, oh my god, now it's tiny. The one from February, I believe, called Damage Details. This one released a bit earlier in the year, back in February, like I said, and I like it a lot as well. Definitely a more electronic sound going on here, a lot less straightforward long samples, and a lot more chops. I think the shorter track times give it a nice flow here, where none of the tracks can really get old. And while I don't think I had any moments that like on this one, I don't think there were moments that really stood out as the big highlight tracks. I found it to be very consistently very good. And I like both albums a lot. Keep sending me these. Let me check if I got it. I did in fact get it. It's not the next album I'm talking about, but I will save that now so that I don't forget. If I can figure out how. Save image as. WebP? Did you convert it to WebP just... Okay. Okay, let me get the next album. This one is by someone in the Discord who goes by Willow. And it is the new... They go under the name Frozen Airframe for this release called Something to Smile About. This was such a cool album. I really enjoyed this. It's definitely more of an atmospheric mood piece than a track to track songs album. But I think even with that being said, there's some really great and standout moments that took me by surprise. It's all kind of drony, ambient-y synth stuff. Feels very dystopian and melancholy. And I'm a particularly big fan of how bit crushed it sounds most of the time. There's some really cool atmospheres going on that I do expect to be revisiting throughout the year. This was awesome. Also continue to send me stuff if you release more. What was the concept for this one again? I remember seeing something in the Bandcamp description, but I don't remember. And I'm gonna keep it moving. But yes, very, very, very cool. Next is the one that you sent me the album cover for, which is Too Big and in WebP because you hate me. The new one from Discord server member Aleph, under the alias Vessels of Their Cult, called Trebuchet. This is my first time listening to one of Aleph's projects, and honestly, I didn't know what I expected. If you're in the Discord, you know Aleph to be a character. We love him, but he can be a character. This isn't what I expected, but I actually really loved it. This one's mastered by Llama from the Discord, who is also moderating the chat right now. And who also runs the label Etherforge, which you should support artists from today because it's Bandcamp Friday. And I think she does a really great job bringing these really disjointed and sparse instrumental compositions to life. Most of the time, you can pretty easily pick out every individual instrument or element that went into making each piece, but the way they're arranged and mixed is so enrapturing and really beautiful. This is really really awesome stuff. Which song did you produce and co-write? Let me pull up the track list again because yeah, I will be going back and listening to some prior Vessels of Their Cult stuff because I really enjoyed this. While I wait for you to tell me which song you co-wrote in two compositions, that might be the best one. So I believe it. Okay. Next we'll do this one by my good friend Ozzy Schatz. I don't know if that's how your last name is pronounced. I'm sorry. Called Isolation Revisited. Again, like an old friend of mine who I've known since well before I started doing YouTube, and this is a revision of some of their work from around that time when we met, as well as there's a new track at the end, which is 9 minutes long, and to me, that's the real highlight of the piece. The old tracks are dark, brooding, very cynical, going between sounds of dark ambient and drone and harsh noise and like light death industrial. The soundscapes are all immaculate and progress in ways that are enthralling and never really lose their luster. The last track is a more retrospective piece. It was made 6 years later than the rest of the stuff, and it's lighter, it's more hopeful, and it's just beautiful. It's an awesome project that I can't recommend enough. Um, there are people screaming outside my window, so hopefully that is not audible through my mic, but I have a sneaking suspicion it might be. Um, what are they doing? Okay. There's like 50 people walking at like zero point 0.1 meters a second. Um, and they're all screaming and clapping the whole way. Um, okay. The last one, which is that's you. Yeah. Get in here. Um, it's May Day. Is May Day a thing at 9:30 p.m. in Canada? I don't Anyways, the last one I'll pull up here. It's kind of cheating, because I made this album, but at this point, I have basically relinquished this album. My album from 2021, Ending Epilogue, got a redo, a re-release, a remaster, a remake, a revision called Ending Epilogue Expanded. And it was all done by Llama, who did the Vessels Their Cult album we were just talking about. And I just want to again commend how great of a job she did with this thing, because this album wasn't very good before. It was all just sketches of stuff that I was just kind of experimenting with during quarantine, just kind of throwing stuff together, and I had 4 ambient tracks, 4 noise tracks. For this release, I managed to track down 2 more, 1 ambient, 1 noise track, to put into this record. The noise track is actually more of like a sludge metal track, but yeah, the remastering work done on here is super transformative. I let her go off the rails, just like full creative control, whatever you want to do. There was so much fun stuff that I was discovering listening back to my own music through this remaster. And yeah, I'm just still wildly impressed by what was able to be done with these tracks that I don't think were very good to begin with. But they've been made into something like genuinely something that I enjoy listening to, detached from the fact that I made them. But yeah, so that's the last of this patrons album segment. Again, if you want me to talk about your music on this live stream, which I'm planning on doing every week, every other week, depending, join the Patreon at the $3 tier, which gets you Discord access, puts your name in the credits of every video. And now, if you talk about, oh no, I did forgot. I did forgore. I forgot the Hyper Collider album. Let me. Oh no. Where is it? Oh no. It's because he didn't link the Bandcamp, and I was scrolling for links when I was finding all the stuff. Let me really quick amend this. Okay. There we go. Okay. Actual last Patreon one. Oh, I just moved the background. The new one by Hyper Collider from the Discord. We Shall Never Meet Again. How wonderful. Goodbye. This is probably my favorite release on the Aetherforge label that that I'm a part of, that my album was released on. Really cool, like post rock, folktronica, and when I say post rock, I mean like Tortoise, like a little bit of Talk, like that very kind of Chicago school sound of early post rock, and it's just really fun stuff, really cool, really well mixed. Again, to kind of give give credit to Llama, the production on here is fantastic, but all the arrangements are really cool as well. Um, I've seen this one get marginally more attention than some of Hyper Collider's previous stuff, and I hope it gets more. Like, if you aren't already like tapped into the little scene that we're cultivating here, um, you should definitely check this one out, and then all the other stuff. Yeah. Sorry, I also didn't write notes for this one because I forgot it on on every level, but I really loved this album, and I'm sorry I forgot it. Okay. Now the Patreon segment is done. And now I need to drink more water. Okay. What's left? So, water review. Not as good as last time. It's getting stale. It's room temperature. It's warm. It's not the best water. Um okay. So the problem is I started writing a bunch of notes for these kind of hidden gems albums in this next segment that we're going to do. And then I ran out of time. So it's going to start with these hidden gems being more kind of structured. I'm going to have things that I know I want to talk about. After that, it's going to get a little more more after hours, you know, less structured, more off the cuff. Who knows what's gonna happen? Completely unpredictable. J. Cole water. um, but yeah, let's start off with. Let me get the album cover ready. We got. Oh my god, I'm struggling over here. J. Cole McDonald's meal. I forget what that is, but I believe it to be real. Um, we got the new Antropoceno album, No Ritmo de Terra. I hope I pronounced that even remotely correctly. This is really cool Brazilian post rock with like a ton of artsy use of like afoxe and avant-garde metal influences in equal measure. I haven't had a lot of opportunities to come back to this one, but it's super unique, super awesome stuff. Next we have J. Cole House. Um, Next we have the new Joshua Chikima Crampton, which is way too small. This is half of Los Tutanaka, who released an amazing album last year. It was like Pitchfork's #1 album of the year, I think. And this is Chiki Mamani Kondori's brother, and it proves pretty handily that she is not carrying him in the slightest because there's nothing like the way that he plays guitar. It's so jagged and experimental in like a really true sense because for an instrument that is pretty well understood at this point, the fact that he can pull stuff off with it that I've never heard anything remotely similar to is like genuinely incredible. It's so full of highlights, and at like 25 minutes long, there's like no filler. It's just awesome atmosphere and really great unconventional playing. Really, really good album cover too. All of the Cramptons uh, album covers are just really fantastic. Um, Next, let me pull up. I'm getting faster at this. Let me pull up the new album by Concealer. This Room Could Be Heaven, which if you like metalcore and also like cum vocals, or at least like emo vocals, this album will be a very pleasant surprise because it's just about the best blend of the two I've heard in a very long time. It's definitely got a bit of that nostalgic early melodic metalcore and mall screamo sound to it. Think like Silverstein or Trivium, but it doesn't have any of the things that held those bands back and made them annoying as they got deeper into their careers. This thing is still like it's still a true blue metalcore album. It just happens to be fused with a bunch of other things that I think are also awesome and don't distract from that heart of metalcore. Yeah, cum vocals. You got any questions? Like, come on. Next, I'm not explaining. You you know what I mean, and if you don't, you don't need to. Yeah, the album cover is sick. It does, yeah, Evil Mirror's Edge is a good way to put it. Next one. Oh, too big. The new one, it's a split EP from Conifer and Vesperal, à double tranchant. I have to flex all my French here because these are two of the two probably the coolest melodic black metal bands in Montreal right now. They put out a split EP with one song each, and it has me so excited for whatever either of them plan to do next. Last year, both bands released new music, and while I definitely preferred Vesperal's album, it's actually Conifer that blew me away here with one of the best songs I think I've ever heard in the genre. Conifer does a bit more of that traditional heavy metal guitar style of mellow black, where Vesperal goes more in the direction of that like the shitty dungeon synthy keyboards. And if either of those sound appealing to you, the whole thing clocks under like 12 minutes, so there's no real reason not to check it out. Um, Next, let's get this in here. We have the new album. There's going to be a lot of metal, which is a good thing for me. Next, we've got the new Cryptic Shift album, Overspace and Super Time. I'm a little bit more over thrash metal than I would like to be. I think it's probably the most stale genre of metal these days, but that only makes it more exciting like uh when exciting bands like this come out. Sorry, I just need to adjust this. Um when stuff this exciting comes out and really blows me away. Um this thing is absolutely weird. It's full of like strange progisms in a way that doesn't come off as tacky, and also some more jazzy stuff, almost akin to like jazz rock stuff like Frank Zappa. It's long as hell, and maybe there's a bit of fat around the edges, but like the core meat here is fucking awesome. And it's definitely the most excited I've been about a new thrash band in a long time. Next, let me hit. What? Okay. One of these album covers was saved as a .htm file, which I didn't. I don't know. I assume that's like a hyperlink. Um, but next we're gonna talk about the new Dealers of God, Bushranger Act 1. I've been aware of Dealers of God for a while now, but I never bothered to give them the time of day. But I listened to their new album back in January, this one, and was really shocked by how much I loved it. I was expecting weirdo hip hop, and while that's kind of what I got, it's actually way closer to like a country album than I expected, way more psychedelic than I could have anticipated. Super hazy and abstract in like a spaced out stoner way that I found really compelling. Lots of trip hop influences, and in a weird way, it's one of the only things I could reasonably compare to that self-titled Cloud Dead album. Just really awesome. Has me regretting sleeping on these guys for so long. That last album cover does kind of look like AI, unfortunately, which is more of a criticism of AI than the album art, because it's like that album art was presumably made before it was so prevalent. Um, yeah, unfortunate. Welcome back. We're in the hidden gems section now, so a lot of stuff that people aren't going to have heard of. I don't expect anyone to have heard of this one. The new Ecchymosis album. Let's see if I can read this title. Thanatocorporeal sculptures of cryogenic excruciation. Okay, that wasn't as bad as I expected. Um, so I really didn't think I liked slam death metal before now. Brutal death metal has already been a bit hit or miss for me in the past, but holy, this thing is good. um, it's dumb as hell. The vocals are ass, and the mix is like blown out to smithereens. But my god, does every performance on here just rips. The riffs go absolutely bananas, especially on track 2. And the drums are so ridiculous. I had to Google to make sure they were real drums. They just sound so damn good, and I think the level of stupidity this album is operating on actually makes it loop around to being one of the coolest things I've heard all year. This thing fucks. On the topic of death metal. Oh, this is a really low res image. Let me get a better one real quick. My wife's an angel. Let me look this up because I don't think I've never seen this. Keep honking about I'm about to fucking kill myself is the name of the album. Okay. I will I've added it to the list of things to check out. I was not aware of this. Um but in the meantime, first, let me go ahead and talk about another death metal album. So true. Uh the new Fossilization album, Advent of Wounds. So last year was kind of shit for metal, especially in the underground. There was kind of just a drought. But as you've seen by now, that is far from the case this year. And this new Fossilization album was the first thing to tip me off that we're kind of in for a comeback year for metal. This is just one of the best meat and potatoes death metal albums I've ever heard. The mix is ridiculously meaty, the riffs slam, the more doomy stuff hits perfectly. This isn't reinventing the wheel by any means. It's really kind of a Dead Congregation, I think is the name of the band. I mix them up with another band. I think it's Dead Congregation. It's very similar to that. But it's just like super high quality stuff. I can't get enough of it. So right now we're talking about albums that I loved from this year that were a little more under the radar, stuff that people aren't talking about so much. Earlier we talked about some of the bigger albums, whether I liked them or not, just like the top billing releases that I listened to. We also talked a bit about the albums by patrons. So if you subscribe to the Patreon, you can get me to talk about your music. But now we're talking about the more obscure stuff that I have really loved so far this year. And next up on that is no, not that. There, the new Beverly Glenn Copeland album, "Laughter in Summer." This one's a real heartbreaker. And I think that's why I kind of rate it so highly. But I also think it's just a beautiful piece of singer-songwriter music and a wonderful capstone to Beverly's career and life. If you don't know, he's best known for his folk albums in the 70s and 80s, and he hasn't done a ton since then. But he got a dementia diagnosis and decided to make one final album with his wife, and it's just beautiful, like life affirming stuff that really left an impact on me early this year. Just really beautiful stuff. And now we're at the point where I ran out of time to take notes. So now it's going to be uh more jagged, less professional because I was not expecting to have to talk about so many albums today. How do I feel about the community forming a record label? That's sick as hell. And I would love to see it go as far as it possibly can. Here we go. Next up, this is one of my favorites of the year. Eric Hall's album Solo 3. Eric Hall does kind of like traditional minimalism, like that very repetitive classical music, very hypnotic. This album is pretty much all renditions of previously existing pieces. There's like a Glenn Branca on here. There's a Steve Reich, As You Need. There's a Charlemagne Palestine on here, and there was one more, Laurie Spiegel. Yeah, and it's just like the best renditions of any of those I've heard. So emotive, so like such a great interpretation of those pieces and performed just perfectly. This is one of my favorite classical releases in a very long time. I really loved this one. Next up, we've got the new Heaven Souls album, West Side Trapped, which is so Heaven Souls is one half of the Side Pieces, who I put very high on my album of the year list last year. They've been very exciting. There's another, I'll be talking about their album shortly from this year, but this one is not what I was expecting, because Heaven Souls does, I think, all the production, or at least most of the production for Side Pieces, and all that production was like really strange, like digital hip hop stuff, very internety. This is like a jazz funk record. Lots of like funk and soul and R&B stuff happening on here, and it's like experimental, but it's not like jarring in the same way that his previous stuff has been. And so I'm still processing it. I've only gotten to listen to it once. But I was like really impressed with it, and I'm very excited to hear more stuff. I'm pretty sure there was no, there was not another album this year. Um, but yeah, really fantastic stuff that I am looking forward to hearing more stuff from. But I don't have to look too hard because also by Heaven Souls, but with Sticker Brush, so a side pieces release, we've got Dark Light. And Dark Light is the follow up to Dark Skin with Light Skin Problems, one of my favorite albums of last year. And I think this one is very, very different in ways that made me at first a little hesitant, but I've really grown to appreciate the direction of this album as well. The last one, it was all these really long, sprawling, like mood pieces, these really big atmospheric uh yeah, just mood pieces, like things that would move over a very long span of time and kind of suck you in. On the other hand, this new album is a lot more subdivided. There's like 20 tracks on here, and most of them are under 3 minutes, I think. And so it's kind of scattershot. It's all over the place, but there's still a lot of really fantastic highlights, and they really push this over to being um, something that I think is not quite as impactful to me, but still just like a really amazing body of work. I'm always going to be looking forward to hearing where these guys go next, because this just shows me that they're not going to pigeonhole themselves into one sound, one structure. And next, this one maybe could have gone into big releases. I mean, it's still a metal album, so you're not gonna get a big audience for it. But the next one is the new album by Immolation. Uh, Immolation is maybe the best death metal band, like point blank period. They have so many amazing albums. They have no bad albums. They only have one album that I would say is under like a 7 out of 10, and even then it's still pretty good. They have so many masterpieces, and this one, Descent, it's called, is right up there, one of their best albums to date. I really loved their album from 2022, Acts of God, and this feels like a push forward in that same direction. So still very dissonant stuff, but not quite abandoning that meat and potatoes, like just great heavy mid-tempo death metal that that the band is known for. Really fantastic work. This was one of my most anticipated albums of the year, and it did not disappoint. And then I've got another one of my favorites of the year. This one is, you said that Immolation album was on your radar. I'm going to guarantee that this next album is not on your radar and that no one here has heard it. But it is also a very, very strong contender for my album of the year. And that is this album by Joybun, Resociation. This is screamo from Australia, and it is so unbelievably good. It is just like the best scrams you're gonna hear this year so far, I think. And it's produced by Xandra Metcalf, or Uboa, and so the production is just absurdly good. The mix is so powerful, and it really lets these otherwise pretty shrill and like jagged tracks fill out the space in such a compelling and such a visceral way. This is one of my favorite Scrams albums of all time. Like, this is so far above and beyond what I could have expected for a release this niche. Like, this has what, 42 ratings on Rate Your Music, and how many purchases on Bandcamp? Let's see. What's that? 20. It looks like what, 25? Yeah. Everyone should go listen to this if you're into kind of scrams, hardcore, black gaze too, noise rock. Um just a fantastic album. Um this one just came out, and while I am loading it up, I'm going to drink water again. I'm starting to realize how long this stream has been because I am really thirsty. Okay. Water review. That one was better than last time because I'm getting so thirsty. I'm getting more less picky. Okay. Next one, the new Kataira. I think Kataira. I don't know how it's pronounced. Caminhos de Agua is the name of this album, and there's really nothing like it. So Kataira is a is a band that previously was making really cool atmospheric black metal at the beginning of the decade, kind of a little folky, but still definitely like black metal. And then in 2021, they had an album called In Paris, In Pariquipe, I think, and that got rid of all the distortion. It was still using like black metal drums, black metal like energy, black metal vocals, but it was all like traditional Brazilian folk instrumentals or instrumentation. And this album is taking that same sound and pushing it even further. There's a lot of like nature recordings. There's so much more folk to this album while never releasing on that black metal energy. And even if this album was just more of the same, no one has done anything like this in the past 5 years, so I would be fine with it. But this is somehow even better and even more exciting to me. This album is so awesome. Next, number one album that's fair. Any Brazilian albums this year I've been into. I've talked about a couple already, but off the top of my head, I don't remember which ones are Brazilian. Hang on. Give me a second. Let's see if I can figure this out. I can't. Sorry. What's next? Oh, okay. This is the next one. I'm done. I'm out of Brazilian albums. Bondage Fruit. Okay, I will check that out at some point. That sounds cool. Put it in the Discord so I don't forget. But the next album is this new one by Kiss Facility, Kazna. And this is like really cool kind of ambient pop indie-tronica, very like down tempo stuff, trip hoppy stuff, but it's all in Arabic. And it takes some of the kind of like the Al Jadid sound. Did I pronounce that right? Please tell me. I think so. Sound that these artists kind of come from, and infuses it with these more contemporary indie-tronica sounds, and it makes for such a unique and such an enthralling musical experience. Just like unbelievable stuff. It's pretty straightforward once you kind of get what it's doing. But the quality is never like it doesn't falter the whole way through. I loved this thing so much. And then taking Rex, yes, but there's no promise that I will remember, which is why I said to Kara, like, if you want me to remember it, your best bet is to be in the Discord and ping me about it because I will forget otherwise. Um, this one was called the artist is Kiss Facility, and the album is Khazna, Khazna. The next one is, oh boy, I'm having more struggles. Okay. The next one is by Letters to You, called Maybe Someday Became Today. It's a 20-minute EP, also kind of scramsy, little more metalcore than the Joy Bun album. Um, and I was so excited. I listened to this and I was like, this is awesome. This is like a cool new artist that I've never heard of before. And then I looked it up and it's fucking Damien Anton Ojeda or Ojeda, which is it's the person from Sadness and from Tra and all of the all of those all of those bands that are just one person that are all amazing and release like 50 albums a year. So that doesn't detract from the fact that this is amazing, really fantastic scrams. But but I was a little disappointed to find that this wasn't like a new discovery by me. This was someone that's already pretty well established. I'm gonna whittle down some of my list because the stream is getting long. My voice is starting to go, and I'm getting tired. It's past 10 p.m. where I am. But I will not skip. Oh, where'd it go? Here. This one, the new Martinez and Roach album, Pandemonium. This is a collaboration between friend of the channel, Lua Trilogy, and Foxmonger, both friends of the channel. But Lua Trilogy has been like a long time supporter. And I think this is maybe not quite Lua's best work, but it's like probably number 2. Really amazing sound collage, kind of musique concrète stuff. Really like dense mood piece. Lots of kind of jazzy. And when I say jazzy, I don't mean like kind of like post bop or like avant-garde or free jazz the way you would expect from an experimental release like this. It's jazzy in like a 50s vocal jazz or like 40s vocal jazz way, like almost like a Frank Sinatra type of jazz. Um in a way that's like really really compelling to me. There's also plenty of like it's not all like that, clearly. But like I was really compelled by the fusions happening here, and I think it's such an expressive piece of work. And I think my only issue is it's maybe like a little over long at an hour long. But like pretty much the whole way through, it's really compelling, really beautiful atmospheres, really dark, really foreboding, um, and just like a really great time. I'm very excited to see. I mean, Lua never releases multiple albums in the same sound back to back, but I would love to see the sound return to in the future. Um, this is not technically this is a release from this year, but none of the material is from this year. But I'm going to shout it out anyways because this year I got into the band Merchant Ships because they put out a compilation um which is their whole discography called I Want to Remember. And it's so, so good. This band is so good. This is maybe the best, like, Midwest emo band ever. Um, I'm so, I'm so in love with this material. And there's not a lot to say that hasn't been said already. This band broke up, what, 16 years ago? But if you're not into Merchant Ships, if you've never heard Merchant Ships, go change that. They're so incredible. Realize you've been slacking off this year with music. If you haven't heard a single new album from this year, uh, I would say prioritize the stuff I've been talking about in the second half of this stream. Because it'll give you a lot of cool it'll give you a lot of cool points for hearing a bunch of stuff that that no one else will know. Or you can listen to stuff at the beginning of the stream so that you can actually talk to people who will know what you're saying. But my vote is always go for the less well-known stuff to look cooler. I'm about to finish my water. Uh-oh. Okay. Next is this new Miserere Lumini album, Sidera or Sidera. I'm not sure which one. This is really fantastic atmospheric black metal. If you know the band Gris, they had an album called Il était une forêt. And this is the members of that in a new band, and this is like one of the best atmospheric black metal albums in ages, which should be expected from members of Gris, who made one of the best black metal albums of all time. But I haven't liked any of this band's stuff before now. And so I was going in kind of like low expectations, but this is like really, really amazing stuff. Really like I don't want to say it's like particularly novel because it is still playing with a lot of the same ideas that a lot of bands like this are going with now, but something about it feels unique, and I haven't been able to put a finger on why. It's definitely got a little bit of that kind of post metal sound to it, and it's like maybe it's a little proggy, but really I can't put my finger on what is so special about this album, but I do know that I love it. Like I think it's incredible. We're coming up on the end here. Thank God. I'm getting tired. Ooh. Here we go. So this is one. If I can get it to load. Where'd it go? This one. So this one, Richard Salas's Casino, is one that I was not expecting to care for. Because the genre tags and whatever, like, it didn't look like something I would care for that much. This is I've never listened to The National. But this is what I imagine The National sounds like. And if this is what The National sounds like, then I need to go listen to The National because this is so good. This is a re-recording of a Richard Salas album from what, 10 years ago? When is this from? Can't find it. An older album. But I think that album in its original form, I went back and listened to it. It's fine. But like it's so lush on here. It's such great songwriting across the board, and I think the instrumentation is just so enthralling. Yeah, this is Spooky Ham Propaganda. They liked this album. I don't remember if they like listened to the whole thing, but they liked what I showed them. Yeah, if you're into this kind of post-punk revival-y, like indie rock scene, kind of late 2000s, more chambery instrumentation, if you're looking for something to replace or at least fill a similar niche to Arcade Fire, I would say this isn't quite exactly what you are looking for, but it's close, and I think you would like it if you're a big Arcade Fire fan. Um, so yeah, that's that one. We're so close. Next up, this one I won't have a lot to say about because it's pretty straightforward, but this new album by a band called Slut Intent, called Slut World. Um, awesome, just riot girl hardcore punk. It's like 18 minutes long. It gets in and out like with very little sorry, someone's screaming outside again. Um with very little like chaff to cut, or however that expression goes. Just like, if you want good true blue hardcore punk, super feminist, super great vocal delivery, and energy, look no further. Like, this is one of the best punk albums I've heard this year so far. How many albums left? Let's see. One, two. Okay, three. Um, next up of those three, this one is a pretty obvious pick for me. If you remember my list from last year, or my list for last year, of my favorite albums, and this is the new Weed 420 mixtape, Estoy Viviendo. They did it again. They can't miss. They keep releasing just amazing, amazing epic collage, kind of Latin electronic stuff. This one feels more psychedelic than some of the previous stuff, and it also has vocal features, which is not something that I associate with this band, and I think it goes over really well. It's not up to the standard of their absolute best works, which basically, if it's not a 10 out of 10, it's not even going in the top 5 of Weed 420's work. But this is still like one of the best things of the year so far. It's fantastic. It is more proof that like this is the most exciting band right now, the band that you need to be paying attention to if you aren't already. um we're so close. Two more. I did end up skipping over some stuff that I otherwise wanted to talk about, but again, I'm getting tired. It's been over 2 hours, and am. I also didn't take notes for any of these, the ones remaining, so I'm feeling like I'm wandering a little bit. Next up is Infinite Quality Achieved, which um it's been a while since I've gotten really into mashup stuff. I made a whole video back in like 2022. My number one album of 2022 was a mashup album. I went back to Ruby Rose recently. I still think that album is fantastic. I still am like really deeply affected by it in a way that I was worried I was gonna have grown out of. But I still think that thing is amazing. This one, Infinite Quality Achieved, is a DJ mix kind of. Uh, it's a bunch of mashups by Silva Gunner or Siva Gunner artists. And if you know anything about Siva Gunner, it's very goofy, it's very silly, it's ridiculously high energy and like chaotic. It's so dumb, but it is so fun. And I got kind of like, I don't know. There was a bit near the end where I got a little choked up as someone who was like, I was there on the ground floor with the I was there on ground floor with the Gylfasunner, Siva Gunner stuff. Like, I have spent so much of my life knowing what this is and knowing all the jokes and knowing everything like associated with Siva Gunner and Gylfasunner and all that whole lore. And there was a moment near the end that's just like really beautiful and really impactful. I won't spoil it, although it does use a really, really blatant sample that was kind of, tear jerk bait. Like, it's really blatant in what it's trying to do, but it worked on me. So yeah, I think this thing is really excellent. It might not be like album of the year list material for me, but I thought it was a lot of fun. And finally, the last one I'm going to talk about, if I can stop hitting save link and start saying save image, is a various artists release called Latin American Football. Um, I was not aware of the Brazil or the Chilean, or I think, where are all of these? Okay, so not from one location. So all over Latin America. There's 9 different artists on here, 9 different bands, all just like really cool, really interesting Latin American Midwest emo. Like, and basically every kind of emo that is being made right now, like the more post-rocky stuff, more post-hardcorey stuff, math rock, kind of some of that swancore like Dance Gavin Dance sound at times, math pop. And there's just like, for 37 minutes there's so much variety. Every song is good. Like, every band really put their best foot forward here, and I just think that everyone should be listening to this if they're into emo. Everyone should check this out and find a band. You'll find at least one band to love from this release. So that's the end of my list of albums that I have listened to and loved, and listened to and didn't love, and that kind of thing. There's a lot of albums I had to cut because this was going over time. Um, but stay tuned. Next week I'm going to be streaming again. Oh yes, ask your question. But while you type your question, I'm going to finish what I was saying. Next week, I'm still not 100% sure what I'm planning on doing. I'm going to be doing like a something a little different every week, because these streams would be like 15 minutes a week otherwise. So I'm gonna come up with some stuff to do. I'm also gonna have better like background visuals and like a better, I don't know. Do you guys like this stream starting soon thing? Should I keep it, or should I make a real one? Um, but yeah, I'm gonna do some work to get this a little better. um, okay, your question. From the releases you worked on last year, including ending epilogue expanded, do you have any notes or expectations from me as a producer that I should consider as you record? I don't. Hmm. I don't know. I don't have any like notes in the sense of like something negative. Like, when we say no notes, it's like nothing negative to say. I would like to see more emphasis on harsher harsher soundscapes that kind of fill the space and kind of envelop you. And I don't know how to describe that in any better way. I hope you know what I mean. Um because I think when I've heard you do those, they're really fantastic. Like, during I forget which track on the Vessels of Their Cult album really blew me away in that regard, but like, just the whole really noisy thing, I feel like you've got a good grasp on. Um okay, I am going to finish this up now. Thank you all for watching. Hello, Matt, MML. Big fan. Good friend. And anyone here, go subscribe to his channel, because he's goated. Um, if you liked this, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the Patreon. If you subscribe to the Patreon and you make music, I will listen to it. I'll talk about it here. I will promote your art for you. So it's pretty good value for $3. And other than that, I think that's all I wanted to say. So thank you for being here, and